Alright, so, chapter 4 now?
Chapter 4. I hate this author. I hate this author. I hate this author. I find her work more offensive than the worst of Torgo stuff. And Torgo, no offense, but you don't have limits. Some of the stuff you write genuinely shocks me. But you mean it, you intend it in a manner of utter stupidity. You intend to make it sound as if the writer has no sense of what they should stay away from. This author...
To be more specific, you know what's a good term for that? Excel Saga episode 26.
And I find this story worse than Raspe Fabio. Honestly, this is officially the worst fanfic I have ever read.
And I find this hilariously heavy-handed propaganda.
Well, just you wait, it gets worse.
This story feels like it's trying to be so clean, I feel like it's pouring dish soap down my throat.
That's kind of like how I feel about Top Gun as a blockbuster, and it's so sanitized in that PG-13 way to make the military look appealing. Yeah, I like Tony Scott's direction of the film, but I just cannot like the film because of that. I'm one of the small few who actually likes Days of Thunder more, because that's Scott actually trying to push the PG-13 by having Tom Cruise rub sweet and low on Nicole Kidman's thighs at the most ridiculous car crashes that makes you wish Tony Scott was in charge of that the entirety of NASCAR, because it would make it much less boring. Alright.
Have you ever considered, doing your own film review channel?
Maybe, but the thing is I would be a terrible editor. If I had a good editor, I would probably
it's not like you'd have to do stuff of nostalgia critic quality, but you certainly seem to have a lot to say.
Maybe.
And it's not always an appropriate thing during our fanfiction readings.
But anyways.
Yeah.
Chapter 4, Dangerous Days Ahead.
Yes.
That's a fitting title.
Author's note. Hello, friends. I apologize for being gone for so long. One of my little ones came down with pneumonia, so of course, my life has been nothing but doctor's appointments and chicken soup. And that's on top of all the other work a mommy has to do. I had nearly forgotten about this little story of mine when I sat down to catch up my email, and, lo and behold, there were dozens of messages from this lovely site. Now, of course...
I'm going to assume that those messages consisted probably of about 1,000 flames.
Now, of course,
yeah, I
there
think,
were some...
again, you should put more... This is another good point to put more images
just continue to cascade the hate. Continue to cascade the hate. Now, of course, there were some hateful messages that made me very sad. But for every review posted by an evolutionist with a bee in his bonnet, there were 3 lovely private messages from other mommies out there thanking me for doing the Lord's work. Wow!
So if we are to be generous and assume that there might be about 600 or so positive reviews here, that would still mean that for this to make sense, she would have to have gotten over 13,000 positive private messages. I doubt it.
And let's see, there's 5,119. At least, how much percent of it is negative?
About 90%.
So let's say 4,500. So that's...
That was what I was calculating from, yes.
That's ridiculous! Did this one story somehow get to just about every single person she had in her target audience?
I really hope not. Wow! I know when the Lord is telling me something. So, here is another chapter for all you mommies out there, and all you non-believers spreading hatred. Well, let's see if you aren't converted by the time this story is over.
So far, this story has made me even more anti-religion than I previously was.
Frankly, this has done nothing.
Don't use this story as a reference for Christians.
I know, but still.
I know. I have a bunch of religious friends from high school, and I meet a bunch of religious people. I had a philosophy professor who was religious. I have seen good religious people. This is not one of them.
This is the work of Satan. This piece.
Oh yeah, I remember. I remember, like, one of the comments I think of one of the propagandas Brad Jones reviewed said, you know what makes sense if this propaganda was made by Satan? Because he'd probably actually want because, like, getting back
because
to this,
he wanted to be famous.
Yes, he wanted to be famous!
Because it is evil! Because it was secretly written by Satan! Because he wanted to be famous!
This is the truth.
That is this fan fiction.
I think if we look hard enough, we can actually find traces of the true essence of the hokey cokey found, and that will be the explanation for it all. This is the hokey cokey's true final form.
Anyway, when the delicious, filling dinner had ended, Harry wiped some last tasty cookie crumbs from the side of his mouth. He was very full and very tired. Discovering the truth, being saved, and coming to Hogwarts, it had certainly been a long day for this little one.
You look like you could use a good night's sleep.
The Reverend's wife commented daintily.
Hey, can I ask something? What's the British equivalent of a Southern accent? Because I think all these people at Hogwarts should be given the British equivalents of Southern accents.
I
actually don't know. I'm gonna stick with their normal voices.
Okay.
Unless we want to give them Southern accents. But I'm voicing McGonagall as McGonagall. How would you like to move into your dormitory?
I would love to! Harry cried cheerfully. He was so excited to become a student here, and he was so grateful for the opportunities the Lord had given him. Sometimes, people who have done without are the most grateful.
Done without? He's had a really loving family!
Yes! Hermione, why don't you show our newest student to the dormitory? Dumbledore suggested wisely.
I'd love to, Daddy.
Hermione replied obediently with an innocent, girlish smile. And got to her feet.
Wait, so everyone in Hogwarts is Dumbledore's son now?
No.
No, it was Hermione. Hermione is canonically his daughter in this story.
Oh.
Yes, remember, like I said in the last chapter, I'd like to meet Hermione Granger, my beloved daughter, who for some reason has a different last name than me. And got to her feet, and smoothed out the skirt of her becoming pink frock.
Should I clean the kitchen first? I can take care of that tonight.
The Reverend's wife answered indulgently, and she was already beginning to clear the elegant porcelain dishes.
But why is the kitchen dirty? Didn't God just give them dinner?
Yes! And you know, I almost feel like we should be actively just changing the names of everyone here, because nobody is acting even remotely like themselves.
I feel like God's powers are inconsistent based on when the author feels God can help and when the author feels God isn't necessary to establish other shenanigans for establishing something. My point is his powers don't seem to be consistent.
Also, of course, you know, the girl has to worry about, yes, I need to clean up the kitchen. The guys never volunteer for that in this story. Now, I know I sound at this point like I'm inserting feminism into this where it shouldn't be. Let's continue. We'll get there soon enough.
It's justified.
Honestly, this is somehow even more sexist of a thing than heavy metal, and heavy metal at least has the excuse of being a gender power fantasy, and it actually has one strong woman at the end. This one literally has none.
Indeed.
Anyway. Thank you, Mommy.
Hermione shouted gratefully, and she walked over to Harry.
Will you please come with me?
Harry blushed shyly, and got to his feet. His aunt had never taught him how to talk to pretty girls. She always said that pretty girls were shallow and not very smart, and that a real woman put her career first and didn't care about her looks. But it only took one look at this godly young girl to realize how wrong that was. A woman taking pride in her appearance is honoring the Lord, because after all, it is the Lord who gave her a pretty face and nice hair. Taking
So
care
if
of that.
someone's born ugly, they must be a Satanist.
Yes, and basically this is pretty much the explanation for why the author demonized Petunia for not wearing makeup. Because she is not taking care of her appearance. Never mind that by wearing makeup you are not even showing the body that God gave you, but...
Okay, you know what? Going back to heavy metal, the thing is, heavy metal didn't try to act like it was deep. Heavy metal was willing to have fun with itself, and it was fun. This is shallow, and yet it's trying to act like it's deep. And I cannot stand that kind of writing.
Again, it gets worse. Taking care of that is important. Harry got the feeling that Hermione was as beautiful on the inside as she was on the outside.
Cut her in half with a chainsaw Sharknado style! That'll put an end to this egregious slandering and valorization of her character.
For all I know, the pieces could just grow back into a bunch of little Hermiones, and one of them...
Oh, dear. You're right, someone would just pray and she'd turn into two Hermiones.
And then one of them would get transferred with Hermione's kidney, and then her cells would take over that person's body, and...
Anyway.
Two little ones stepped out into the brisk, chilly night. And for a few minutes they were both silent. Harry did not think it was possible for this sweet, demure girl to be as nervous as he was. But going by the silence, perhaps she was a little nervous herself.
Of what?
I don't know, and you know,
of being
I'd like
with
to point...
a man?
Yes, and I'd like to point out, they are 11. I think they're still a bit too young to be this romantically awkward.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I suppose it's not impossible, but...
Can I ask something? Is this gonna get into an arranged marriage?
I kind of see that coming, yeah.
It hasn't happened yet, but...
It hasn't happened yet, but the way that it's acting, I mean, she's a woman. Her whole purpose is to get married and have children, isn't it?
After a few minutes, Hermione welcomed Charlie.
Welcome to Hogwarts. It is a wonderful place, and we really are so glad to have you here.
Harry's face reddened as they crossed an expansive flowery field. They were going in the direction of a cluster of imposing stone, academic-looking buildings. Thank you, he muttered happily. It is beautiful, and it feels very holy.
It is.
Hermione commented enthusiastically, and her chocolate-covered, carefully curled tresses were bouncing along with her steps.
My father is a very godly man, and to spread the word of the Lord is his greatest dream.
I realize I said that narration bit there a bit wrong. I said that that her dresses were chocolate-covered when it was supposed to be chocolate-colored. And that's obviously wrong, because obviously wearing dirty clothes is not Christian. Truly, that is a noble dream, Harry responded gravely, with wisdom beyond his few years. You know, have I ever mentioned how terrible the narration in this story is? Show, don't, tell. They walked for a few more minutes in silence. Eventually, they reached... Sorry. Eventually, they reached the end of the lovely green meadow.
The boys' dormitory is that way. Sorry, is this way.
Hermione exposited knowingly. And with the innocent, casual affection so often found in children, she grabbed Harry's hand as she led him around the edifice of classrooms. Harry was so nervous. He could not think of anything to say. His brain fumbled for the perfect Christian thing to say. But before he could even manage a word, Hermione came to a stop in front of a tall stone tower.
This is the boys' dormitory.
The devout young woman explained kindly, and she gestured to the heavy oak door beside them.
I would show you inside, but I would hate to cause a scandal. Just go in for a minute! You can't take your clothes off, have sex, and then come back out in the span of 30 seconds. Just because you're going into the dorm doesn't mean you're going to be doing anything.
I understand, Harry declared graciously. And I'm pretty sure that my Harry voice is once again slipping over into Dark Yagami here, but...
It doesn't matter, he might as well be Dark Yagami, except the opposite.
Well, it's basically like his voice seems to alternate between Dark Yagami-esque when he is acting when he is talking semi-normally, and the most obnoxious holier-than-thou person ever whenever he is being, well, obnoxiously holier than thou. Too many young men these days pressure young women into things undesired and forbidden. It is the mark of a true, old-fashioned gentleman to respect the fact that every young woman is another man's future wife. And we all know that it would be a dreadful, terrible sin to bring another man's wife into intimacy. 1, 11, 2, written by a woman, what the hell?
I feel like we've been ugly truthed in the sense that we are watching something that, despite being written by one gender, is somehow offensive towards both genders. Because of the way it...
Oh, it's definitely more offensive towards women, but still.
Every young woman is not going to be some other man's future wife.
Okay,
also,
in that case, we've been
if you assume
mismarked.
that the woman's going to marry someone else. Also, you're objectifying women. And let's continue, because it's a line even worse following this.
Why does modern culture suddenly treat that as okay simply because he does not have her yet?
Have her?
Man's laws may permit it, but the laws of the Lord are not bound by time. I actually have a rant on that, but I will save that to a later time because it will be more appropriate then.
Women do not exist to be man's property. Yes, that is how it was culturally before, and thus, in scripture, that is how it's alluded to.
What?
However,
Hold
that's
on.
why the Bible needs to be considered in a historical context. Because there are some things that Jesus said that were radical enough for his time. But some things you just don't...
Hold on, we haven't reached this part, but there's a part below that I do not believe what I am reading, but we'll get to that.
Just wait until we get there. Wait until we get there, Torgo.
Hermione moved to push open the imposing large door, but she struggled with the knob. It was quite a heavy door. But Harry was a good, devout Christian now. He would not have a young, godly girl struggling to open a door which he was perfectly capable of opening himself.
Girls are too weak to open doors!
Also...
This author thinks that girls are too weak and dainty to open doors.
Also,
What
this
the
sentence gets contradicted immediately, because with the simple faith so often seen in little ones, Harry got down on his knees and lifted his hand skyward and shouted prayerfully, "Dear Lord, please open these doors and allow me to enter my new home." Seriously, why do I even bother?
He didn't open it himself. He asked God to open the door.
Yes. With a loud, thunderous boom that echoed through the expansive, beautiful campus, the doors crashed open. Harry stood up piously. How is that how it's pronounced? I don't know.
Yes, pious.
Harry stood up piously as Hermione's jaw dropped. Now she knew for
He
certain
stood
that
up
this was
religiously. No, wait.
Yes.
Here's another hilarious thing. Other definitions. Making a hypocritical display of virtue and of a hope sincere but unlikely to be fulfilled.
Well, according to the Bible, Harry is being a hypocrite here because, well, I pointed this out in the video for chapter 2, but you are not supposed to be praying in public. That is actually in the Bible.
I mean, you can pray in public, you're just not supposed to be show-offy about it. Like, sure, express your faith, but don't be like, oh God, you know that I am a righteous man. Of my virtue I am justly proud.
Why, hello, Frollo. Now she knew for certain that this was truly a man of the Lord. Harry was about to step inside when Hermione grabbed his arm. He blushed once more.
Wait, Harry.
Hermione uttered quickly.
There's something you should know.
What is it? Harry queried questioningly.
My father says that dark times are coming.
Hermione spoke worriedly.
There is a man named Voldemort who wants to destroy all that we stand for. He is pushing an agenda in Congress which will stop us from practicing our faith freely.
But that is what our founding fathers built this nation for! Never mind that Harry Potter is set in England! Harry cried indignantly. Or I suppose it's technically in Scotland, but still. The freedom of religion!
Okay, stop right here. AP US history time. Our founding fathers, the writers of this the Constitution, did not found our nation specifically for the freedom of religion. Yes, some of the early American colonizations were from Puritans and Pilgrims coming over from England to found their own religious societies where they could do what they wanted because they thought that the Church of England was either too Catholic or not Catholic enough. Mostly too Catholic. Because while they weren't affiliated with the Vatican, the Church of England was still acting very, very Catholic otherwise. And a lot of people didn't like that. So they came over here and were like, we will found our own society and do our thing. Yeah. Now, the Founding Fathers, they wanted a number of things. Namely, they wanted political representation because, well, really they just didn't want to pay taxes. So it was a big part of it because, seriously, we can't vote on how we're being represented and you're making us pay taxes? Taxes? No one likes taxes. And there were actually, even before the Constitution, there were the Articles of Confederation, blah, blah, blah. The point stands that that is completely wrong. If you want more background, read about it. Anyway. Did you guys fall asleep?
No, but your line is up next.
Yeah. Voldemort doesn't care.
Hermione remarked sadly, and she shook her head.
And he is gaining power. The freedom of Christians to practice our faith is disappearing by the day. Soon it will be like it was in Rome.
Yeah, see, about that whole thing with the freedom to practice your faith disappearing day by day, if this author is trying to imply that that is how it actually is in the real world, Dark Matter 2525, if atheists acted religious. Look it up. It's a YouTube video addressing roughly how idiotic that is.
Actually, though, this is a common arguing point of a lot of talk radio hosts.
Well, yes, that video was made specifically in response to that topic.
I'm just saying that this author probably genuinely believes that.
Yes, and I am saying just watch that video. It points out how blatantly wrong it is. Lovely ladylike tears began to roll down her delicate, terrified face.
And I don't like lions, but you're a Gryffindor!
Well, of course, she is saying that the freedom of... Ah, right, in that respect, of course. Well, she probably still doesn't want to be eaten by a lion.
Actually, the worst possible thing would be if I were eaten by a lion, Dark Yagami said. Anyway.
It will be alright, Harry reassured manfully. We will just need to pray really, really hard. That's why we're here, after all.
You're so brave.
Sorry, I think I just facepalmed too hard just now and half my brain fell out. Hermione pronounced admiringly, and she wiped the tears from her eyes. She flung her arms around Harry's neck.
Thank you for giving me courage.
Harry patted her on the head before departing and entering his new home. It wasn't until the doors had closed behind him that he realized that he did not know where he was supposed to sleep. The tower consisted of an old stone staircase winding up to the steep sacred walls. And there were doors leading into each bedroom off the stairway corridor. Harry felt very lost for a moment, but a quick prayer showed him the way. As he collapsed into his bed, very tired from such an eventful day, he thought about the days that were coming. It was truly a good thing that the Lord had called him when he did.